Niké, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're pumped to have you here. So we'll just jump in with our first question, which is, what is something that life is teaching you right now?
I think right now life is teaching me to take better care of my future self, which is a concept that has been coming up a lot lately. I've seen it in like a TikTok. I've seen it mentioned in like a book that I was reading. And it's just like, do things for your future self. Your present self should do things for your future self. So your future self thanks what they now consider their past self, which is great for me who's like ADHD and
Same.
like a procrastinator. Like I'm just like, okay, like I should just do the dishes tonight because my future self tomorrow is going to be like, this is great. Like, thank you so much. I don't feel overwhelmed or anxious or like things aren't in the right space. And I think it's definitely taken like probably my whole life to figure that out, but really resonated and came up, and I'm learning it intently right now. So,
Ooh, okay. I have questions as a fellow ADHD procrastinator.
oh yeah.
Who did half of the dishes this morning and was like, I'm a fucking superhero. I feel like a lot of the reasons why sometimes we struggle to like procrastination can be heavy is because the action feels weighed down by shame, right? Like in order to give your future self a gift, you kind of have to like wade through this shame swamp. Maybe I'm just projecting. Maybe this is just my own experience, but I'm curious for you if something has shifted or how space has opened up so that thinking of future you can be a gift rather than kind of the cycle of judgment and criticism I think that can show up.
I think what really propelled me to taking into consideration my future self more was I heard someone say, like, we do so much for other people, and we are like even sometimes more willing to help support other people and their future selves than ourselves. And like, why is that? Like, why do we neglect our future selves, but we help support others in their future self? And so I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Like there's so many times during my day that I try to make something easier for someone I care about, or like I prepare like a meal for someone I care about, but then I don't prepare it for myself, or like small things like that.
Wait, do you, can I interrupt really quick and ask, like, do you have a sense of why you think you do that?
Sometimes I feel like, well, okay, so I'm a special education teacher. I just got my master's in special education and neurodivergency.
Yeah.
Which ties into like the ADHD. And sometimes for me, tasks, when it's for myself, feel like it's boring or like, oh, I could do that whenever. Like the time concept is different. Like I'm always going to be myself. So I like prolong the time. Whereas like for other people, it's like, well, they're might not always be here or in this time and space, or I might not always know this person. So I do it in that time, like that relative timing. And like connecting to the ADHD and neurodivergency is like, usually if you're ADHD, depending on which side of the spectrum, but like there's like a lack of concept of time, or you don't really pay attention to time. And so I think that's where it really comes into play for myself, versus like I could be more lenient with myself, right? Because I'm not gonna get mad at myself for my time, my concept of time, but other people might, especially growing up, like that would happen. So I think it kind of has to relate with that. But even with that, like now I put timers for myself, which kind of sounds
I think
a
this
lot.
might just be turning into the Kyley Gets Life Hacks tip. Which is really
I'm a total timer person. It's like so helpful because otherwise I can just like lose myself.
Oh my God, I'm so bad. This is my ADD though, as the timer goes off and I'm like, that doesn't fucking matter. That timer's a joke.
I do that too sometimes. I totally do that too sometimes.
Yeah. But like in my head, I'm like, I know exactly what 5 minutes feel like. but I don't actually. Like, I will say like, yeah, that was 5 minutes. I spent 5 minutes putting on lotion, and then I'll look at the time and it's been 10 minutes and I'm like, I'm late. So
Okay, that is the story of my life. My partner has told me I have no concept of time, which I think is kind of true. Because sometimes I'm like,
because it's not real, dummies. Like, of course,
yeah,
exactly.
It isn't real, but it's so hard when you're in a society that values time so much, especially when it's aligned with like whiteness, like, because a lot of people of color, like we even say people of color time, right? Like it's just like a shift. So like, it's like the cultural influence and then the neurodivergency. So like, that's something I started doing because I do have generalized anxiety. So I was like, okay, it's either feel the anxious feelings or like put like a timer on and see if that helps alleviate. And it's not like I'm perfect every time, right? Like sometimes I take an extra minute, but it definitely helps, especially when providing for my future self. And I've just noticed a huge difference.
Yeah.
I personally love this so much because I think what you're offering is like this framework shift of like, rather than it being this thing you should be better at and are failing at, and therefore get caught in this cycle of kind of like punishment and self-criticism. Instead, it's like, how can I nourish and love on my future self? And I just think that's such like a simple and also really significant shift. And I just fucking love it. So thank you.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's coming from such a loving place.
Yeah, because I think something else I've realized this year, especially in like a lot of the work I've been doing, is that a lot of the structures that we have in life, we're meant to fail at. So like, you're gonna fail anyway. Like I go into things knowing like, I'm probably gonna fail. So like, I was never going to like make it anyway. So it's like easier, at least it's an easier way for me to understand it. And it kind of helps combat the perfectionism too. That again is a product of our society. Like it was put there in order to make us fail and feel like we're failing.
Kyley, do you have, I feel like you might have the same question. I mean, I just want you to say more about that. Like which systems, I mean, it's like, that can just open up a can of worms, but yeah, just, I want to leave it open-ended. Like, talk about the systems that are set up against us, essentially. That's how I'm taking what you're saying. Because like they're fucking, we're not, they're it's like a sick game that no one wins.
Yeah.
It's like being in the Twilight Zone.
I mean, Jeff Bezos seems to be winning it for.
Well, is he though?
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes I don't know if y'all saw like the meme where it's like him and maybe his wife or girlfriend now, and like she's still looking at another guy, and they're like, oh, you can't even win that. So it's funny. But so I do a lot of work around creating safer spaces for Black and Indigenous women plus or femmes. And also cultivating a healing space or just environment that is safer for BIPOC. So a lot of my work is understanding the structures of like white supremacy, understanding the structures of xenophobia, anti-Semitism, anti-Blackness, anti-Indigenous behaviors and mindsets. And so if specifically in white supremacy, there's 15 segments of white supremacy that are implemented in our capitalistic colonialist society. And so the top of it is perfectionism. And so once I realized that, because I am a perfectionist, like more of like an internal perfectionism, like when I was in school, I wouldn't start assignments because I wouldn't have like the perfect concept, or like I would start an assignment and then my ADHD would like take me away from the assignment, and then I would just restart it again because I'm like, this train of thought is gone. I have to like scrap it and start over again. And like that was a huge problem trying to get a degree. And so I had a professor who was like, you should really look into like how you were socialized to do that, right? Like in your family, were you socialized to do that, or is it like a bigger issue? And I realized it was a little bit of both, but also like I come from my parents are immigrants. I'm a first generation American, and they're West African. And again, that perfectionism is in that culture, but it's because it was brought through colonization. Like originally, perfectionism isn't a part of West African culture or a lot of different cultures. So that's where I really analyze like, oh, like we are socialized to be this way. And it's not only perfectionism, it's actually everything, every ism, every, like even understanding time and what it is a socialization. I don't know if y'all have seen recently, like people were talking on the internet about Ethiopia and how it's like in a different like date. Like I think they're in 2013 right now or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like a lot of the world is in 2022 and they're still in 2013 because their calendar is different. The calendar that they follow is different, which proves like time is made up.
Yeah, it's
right?
totally made up. Yeah.
Yeah. But like if we're socialized to use this calendar. So how many other things are we socialized to do? A lot, like everything.
I mean, it's everything. It's like literally embedded into our skin. And like, I think, okay, this is like why we have a podcast, because Kyley and I just love to like blow shit up or just have our minds blown by like how indoctrinated I think both of us have been in different areas of our life. And then all of a sudden you realize, yeah, nothing's real.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a grounded approach too. Like sometimes I hear people say like nothing's real, but then it kind of spins. And I love a good like ET story. I love a good, like maybe there's like Atlantis and the mermaids. Like I love it, but also it's like it's actually closer than you think. Like it actually doesn't have to be so like outside, like it's like right in front of us actually. And I think once we kind of address like the grounded like earth like racism, you were socialized to be racist. You have to understand that in order to be anti-racist. You were socialized to be transphobic. You have to understand that in order to not be transphobic anymore. Once we like deal with like those earth socializations, indoctrinations, like this is the rigged system, then I think we'll see a lot more change and shifts. And then maybe, the ETs will come and talk to us. That's like the path that I'm thinking of.
Yeah, like we were just talking about this just the other day, like you can't use spirituality to escape this, right? Like that arguably defeats the purpose if we're all busy talking about Atlantis and like meanwhile like high racism.
Something I say a lot is like, if it's not helping you be more human, then it's not really a spiritual practice, because what the fuck else is spirituality if it's not here to teach you how to be a human? Like that's it, so that we can interact with each other. I don't know how, we don't have to get too into it, but my like logical brain is very interested in these like 15 different types of examples of colonialism that you briefly mentioned. Can you like drop in a couple of other examples?
Yes.
I mean, it is literally everything, I'm sure, but I'm curious, like, are these examples from like academia?
Yeah, there is. So there's like, let me think if I have the right, I think it's called like white supremacy culture. And even if you look it up, like if you Google, for like the listeners, white supremacy culture, there's like a specific website that comes out that really outlines it. And they talk about divorcing white supremacy culture and coming to home to like who we authentically are, which I think really connects to like ancestral understanding as well. But like there's a lot of characteristics. So like, perfectionism is one. Like valuing written work over verbal work is another. And within that is like language or like the way that people, they put an a hierarchy of like how articulate you are and how that supports your worth or your value. Individualism is another one that I'm like, ugh, individualism is like the root of all
please
evil.
Like I just felt how lit up you got about that. Please just like take the floor and like,
I would love to listen
read
to
us about individualism,
because this is something I struggle with too in my culture.
Individualism is so embedded in American culture for sure, but it's really just when. And like, you'll see so much actually that supports individualism, even within like spirituality. Like a lot of the emphasis in Western spirituality is individualism, which I think is ironic because a lot of the concepts come from BIPOC cultures and spiritualities that focus on community. So it's like there's a disconnect when you're using a concept that focuses on community and you're applying it to individualism. And you'll see this with like manifestation, like the way that people like talk about and think about manifestation, or like cultural appropriation within the space and like the way that people like talk about it. And then I think eventually, this is like a huge jump, it leads to emotional violence in spirituality. Yeah. Because we value, again, individualism versus like community and like healing and restorative conversations in community. It's like a whole,
can you say more?
Thing.
Oh, I'm here for all of this. Can you say more about sort of this emotional violence that comes out of individualism?
Yeah. So
as you can tell, we're like, let's go as deep as possible, as fast as possible. That's our whole vibe here, swearing and going as deep as possible.
I love it. I love it. So I think with individualism, it also puts an emphasis on it being very self-critical, right? And it's like almost putting oneself on a pedestal because you don't have a community to fall back on who will help support you and nurture you, right? It's like, I have to rely on myself. Hustle culture kind of gets into that too. And so I think then it leads to emotional violence because if you have to rely on yourself and you don't have a community to help support you and nurture you, but also to give you different perspectives, and you rely on your lived experience, when you interact with other people, especially who differ from yourself or your lived experience, and especially if you're in a hierarchy. So a good example is like, say a person who is not Native or Hindu and they're doing like yoga and they're teaching yoga. If they're taking more of an individual approach and someone in their yoga class says, hey, what you said was actually really harmful and it doesn't really respect the origins of Hinduism, they might use emotional violence back in that space and say like, well, you're honestly just not being a really good vibe right now. So you need to adjust your energy and adjust your attitude. Remember, this is a loving
like the
space.
Gaslighting, right? It's like gaslighting.
Yeah. And so again, that's because if you're not used to having community, you're not used to various perspectives, instead of like taking a step back and reflecting, you almost like feel like you have to defend yourself because you're the only one there for yourself. Whereas if we focus on community and really having a supportive, authentic, genuine relationship with community, you could take a step back and you can understand, one, there's different lived experiences. So undoubtedly, you are going to harm other people in your life. And two, you'll be able to kind of speak and consult others in your space that you know care about you and also care about your well-being to get a better understanding and to get more of a perspective, which is really important too.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I've never really, I mean, obviously I've thought about the power of community, but it just sounds like it just is bringing my attention to how, because everything's so nuclear that so much of that's just the norm now. Like that's just how we are. But I think like back in the day it would have been like really different. Now that's just like, we're all kind of, I mean, I think what makes me sad is that even with communities, like we have our families and like our friends, I still feel like somehow it's lacking to what it could be like in a really profound way. I often crave community because I feel like the community I have isn't enough, not because I don't have community, but because the type of community that I want is like, doesn't even exist right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't, like that, it's almost eradicated. It's probably more in, places that kept their cultures and they upheld their history, or like places that weren't affected by the modern world as much, because even like historically, like ancestral wise, like like, I still know my tribes, right? Like I still know the tribes that my parents belong to, and then thus I belong to. Someone looks at my last name and they know exactly what tribe I'm from that region. Mm-hmm. But there's still such a disconnect because I didn't grow up in that tribe. Mm-hmm. I grew up like miles away from that tribe. So like internally, I know like I'm meant to have a community, but there's been so many things and structures in place and just like instances that have caused that disconnection, right? Like the colonization, the colonialism and the colonization of my original country eradicated that, right? Like the ports, one of the ports, the biggest ports of the transatlantic slave trade was in that country. Like you could go, you could see the port and you can feel that that was the port. That started like a disconnection, right? It brought people really far away from their tribes, from their origins. And so I think people don't always realize that the historical effects steep into our structures today, which is why other people talk about it, but then some people want to ignore it because it feels too heavy. Mm-hmm. But it's literally because like it's like cause and effect, and it's really embedded in our structure today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a question.
I was like, that was a lot.
Just like a moment of silence for all the ways we fucked everything.
I know that's kind of how I feel. Like I don't know. Yeah, I mean, this is it's not a new question, but it's one, I'm going to be honest, that I just struggle with all the time, is like, so, or maybe that's not the answer. So I'm answering my own question in my head before I even ask it, but like, how do you, Niké, move through and deal with like when you start to know so much, then you just get really angry and overwhelmed, and sometimes a feeling of like helplessness and all of that stuff. Yeah, how do you move through that? Or maybe I was going to say, maybe the answer is that you don't move through that you allow yourself to sit in that grief and that pain and let your heart just break wide open.
Yeah, I think it's just like you go through phases, I've noticed, and I've actually reflected on this recently. And I think someone else articulated this well, like someone, they went to a historically Black college, and they're like, that's when they learned this true history of stuff. And so after they went to college, like they were just fighting everyone. And then they mellowed out. And I think that's also like happened to me. Like I went through a period where I did a lot of understanding my internalized oppression and like unlearning. And then I was just enraged for like 2 years. It was actually through the pandemic. So like definitely that 2020, I was working in a school district that was just very hypocritical and racist. And I got like they were telling me like, well, maybe if you can't handle it here, we can transfer you and things like that. But that's when I really learned how to use my voice. And then the Black Lives Matter protest happened. And it was like almost affirmation. Like people started taking me seriously, which is really sad that I had to do that. Mm-hmm. And then I was just enraged. Mm-hmm. And I would talk about it every conversation. And then I also saw who like were my friends who could handle it, right? Like they cared enough about me to like care and like hear me out, and like the people who just couldn't handle it. So it kind of like made that. And then now I'm like simmering down. Yeah. But it took a good, we're in 2022. Yeah, it took a good 2 years. Like I was enraged. I was like telling everyone, saying it to everyone. Like I was being completely honest and blunt. And I feel like that was really nice too, though, because I wasn't afraid to voice how I felt. And I really didn't care who didn't like it or not, because I think that's something I grew up with, like wanting to be quiet and meek, especially as a child of immigrants. Like you want to be well behaved, because they kind of ingrain it to you to be well behaved and like educated and things like that. So I was also like healing my inner child and inner teen who never got to say anything during that period of time too. And so I think, yeah, it was just like, it just exploded. And I wasn't like mean or rude to people.
Yeah.
I was just like honest and blunt, and I didn't take anything. And it was like the greatest 2 years of my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that sounds great, actually. It sounds incredibly liberating. And I'm also just hearing you, so like, just let yourself have that process. Like, it doesn't need to be any way or like look any way, or and then that's okay. Yeah. It takes time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think there's also something really beautiful about like, to the point about community, is like letting yourself go scorched earth, and your community is the people who's like, yeah, I can witness your discomfort, right? Like I can be in this with you, and therefore you can recognize them as like safe spaces and as the community in this like weird, fraught, fucked up ecosystem we've built, where community is a complicated thing. So I just think there's something really beautiful in like, yeah, unleashing your rage as a very means of creating your community.
Yeah, definitely. Because through that too, a lot of my friendships that like didn't work out, which wasn't even that many, but it was because like they just didn't value the things that I valued, that I realized. And like I really value, for example, intersectionality. Like I crave it now. And they just didn't. And it kind of was like, why don't you care about other humans? So it's like, obviously we're not going to be good friends because I can't even see that you care about me. Which was like, maybe I could have figured that out down the line, even without you connecting to this, but it just kind of accelerated the process too, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Eva.
No, I didn't really have anything.
I was just actually going to ask, I think listeners of our podcast probably have a pretty good grasp, but just in case, can you actually speak to intersectionality and what it is and what it means? And
oh yeah, so it was first used in academia. I think Kimberly Crenshaw, she's like a law professor, actually at UCLA. My dad works at UCLA, and I was like, do you know this woman? And he's like, no. I was like, oh,
you should go
the
find
only
her.
time I'm going to use you was to talk to her.
Can you please go befriend her by the coffee pot?
Yeah, like, come on, just walk past the law school. But he's like, I'm a mathematician. I don't need
Yeah, it's not a lot of
like, my daughter's a big fan though.
Yeah. But anyway, so she coined the term because she realized that a lot of things and lived experiences are intersectional, which means like the facets that make up our identity and the things that we have been socialized to, not to understand about ourselves, but we have been socialized and forced to adopt as identities can intertwine with each other. So for example, I'm Black, but I'm also a Black woman. So like the experience goes from Black to Black woman, which is a whole different identity than say someone who's like a Black man, right? But then I'm also educated, which is like another intersectionality that presents itself with privilege. So like, obviously Black women are not really well respected in the United States. However, I'm an educated Black woman, which also means that I have privilege because I have access to education. So it's also an intersectional understanding of like your oppression and your privilege that a lot of people can't grasp because a lot of people like to focus on their oppression.
All the lower class white men in America who are like, but I'm poor, so therefore nothing else exists.
Right, exactly.
Also, to be clear, all the white women who do the exact same thing.
Exactly. Or like, I'm a woman, so I can't understand oppressing other people.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so I think that's the best way to explain the initial, because it is so complex, but the initiality of it, right, is like, your identities intersect in various ways. And I always like talking about it too, because there's some people who do try to do oppression Olympics with me. And I'm like, if you can acknowledge your privileges, it would actually help you understand your oppressions more. And also help you understand how to navigate this world with, especially if you have front and center oppressions, like your skin tone, your features, etc. But it'll also help you understand how different oppressions and different privileges, like their status or like how the hierarchy of it shifts depending on like which settings you are. So like academia, for example, like sure, there's racism in academia, but what they really care about is like your education and your intelligence, no matter what race, right? Like that's where you'll see a lot of people from other countries, they'll come to the United States and like they'll be renowned in like whatever field they're in. Versus like, sometimes I just go to a store, right? And people are looking me up and down like, what is this Black woman doing in this predominantly white neighborhood? Like they don't know my education, they don't know my family, they don't know where I come from, they don't know the access to privilege I may have, but because they look at more my outside features. So it's also really interesting to think about that intersectionality as well, like how well you do in certain spaces based on certain identities. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about my own intersectionality right now.
I know, it's like great. I do something called Positionality. It's actually on my website for free if anyone wants to look. And positionality is usually what researchers do when they're doing research and like they have data points or like they're researching a topic that especially involves a lot of different factors. So you'll see that they'll put a positionality about their perspective, like I'm a Black woman from a financial privileged background who's also able-bodied. So like they'll list it out because it also shows any biases they might have, right? And so I took that from a lot of the research I was doing for my master's. And so I think it's like such a benefit. So I actually have a lot of my clients do the positionality to understand what position first they hold in society. So you'll see a lot of people who are like, again, I am oppressed, I'm a woman, or I'm oppressed, I'm part of the LGBTQIA plus community, but also then they realize, oh, I'm also white, and then like the intersectionality and like, okay, I can be oppressed in this identity or a couple of identities, but I also have privileges in these other identities. And so when I center my oppression, especially when talking or wanting to support BIPOC, I have to see how that influences the way that I approach life. So yeah, positionality is like a great way to figure out your intersectionalities.
Yeah, I mean, I think I love what you said earlier about how understanding your privileges also help you understand your oppression, and I think vice versa, because I've had the experience of both, of actually having so much like internalized racism that I didn't actually see myself as oppressed when actually like I was oppressed. Like that was also really helpful. But then also on the opposite of being like, oh, I'm oppressed, and having the story of how I'm like, like I'm bitter about this thing, but actually I also have like all of, and then also noticing all of these privileges as well. And I think what that does is like, it just shows, it helps me understand like the humanness of each person. And that I think that's ultimately that it's like a gift though, because I think sometimes I get annoyed when people say like it's complicated, because it just becomes like this like blanket that you put over everything. But the truth is like that it is, and people are complex and complicated, and there's never just going to be like, I think when we understand that you have to treat like the individual, then I think we would work better as a system rather than, but I think we're always looking for the most efficient way, and it's not efficient. I think, well, actually, I would argue it's like probably more efficient if we could actually work that way. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah. And I also think people are resistant. Like it's so much easier to dislike someone or like not want to, or like to pity ourselves or victimize ourselves if the other person's more one-dimensional. right? So when you start figuring out like they're just as human as you and they have all these other complexities going on, it's like, well, that's when the intersectionality hits and you're like, oh my gosh, well, I guess I can like understand and see how they act that way and like how they're like also hurt. Like that's what I realized for myself too. I'm like always looking at every single side. I'm like, well, yes, they have that privilege, but they also have this disadvantage and like all these things. So it just makes like other people more real and like more human.
Yeah. I just saw a vision of a meme where it says like when that intersectionality hits and you get like a picture of somebody like crying with big eyes because they're finally feeling like open, you know what I mean? And vulnerable. But I think ultimately, I think that's a gift when we can feel that way. But I think it's hard to crack at first because we're afraid to feel. But I think and then finally when we get there, it feels good. And it's like we're afraid to cry, but then when we finally do it, it feels like a fucking relief.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like it's also connected to the 15 pillars I was talking about white supremacy. Like there's a fear of like open conflict. So it's like, even with yourself, like addressing your internal oppression, your internalized racism, like all these other components, and then being defensive, which is also a pillar of white supremacy. So like, I'm just like, they're all so connected. That's why I don't understand when people don't see it. But I get it. It's like the socialization.
A giant elephant right in front of you.
It is a trip though. It's a fucking trip though when people like don't see it. And I think that just speaks to the power of living in a really small world, I guess.
Yeah. I also feel like though it might be a defensive mechanism. Like there's some people I talk to and like they believe in the Illuminati, but like they don't believe in white supremacy. It's kind of like that's really kind of ironic.
Yeah. It is a defense mechanism for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm willing to bet those people might be white. I'm just gonna go. Maybe not, but
yeah, I mean, majority, I think so, but like, then you'll see. But then I think that's also why I think for people of color, it's so important to navigate your own internalized oppression because you don't realize like how much is like in it. Like I took a workshop by Rachel Ricketts, who is like a phenomenal anti-racist spiritual leader. Too. Oh yeah.
She's great.
Yeah.
Kyley, I think you recommended her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's fucking great.
Yeah, I love her. She came on my podcast. I was like,
oh my God, she did?
Yeah.
That must have been huge. Sorry, like, were you like fangirling a little bit? I feel like I would fangirl.
Yeah, I was a little. I was like, oh my gosh, like I talk about you to everyone. And she like helped propel me into the work I do now.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, I took a workshop about internalized oppression, and it was like in a point where I was like, oh, like I like done so much work and like understanding myself, etc. But even that workshop, I was like, oh my gosh, like there's even more. And like, it's probably something I'm gonna actually unlearn for maybe the rest of my life. Because you even realize like our parents probably pass it down and things like that. So yeah, I think it's so important because then like you do engage and like some of these things are actually like denouncing you. There was something that I was like, I can't believe I used to believe that, but now I forget.
Oh yeah, I'm curious what this is.
I feel like it was a couple. Oh, like cultural food, right? Like my mom says now that my sister and I don't like our cultural food. And like, I realized like, that's actually not true at all. Like I actually enjoy a lot of my cultural food, but growing up, there was such a stigma around like bringing cultural food to like lunch to school and things like that. Like I would rather eat the Blanche chicken nuggets than like a delicious meal my mom made. And it was literally because like people would say like, oh, that's like stinky, or like, what is that? That looks like this, that looks like that. And now it makes me really sad because I don't know how to really cook my cultural food, right? Because there was such a like, I don't want to, but that was really embedded through the like going to school and the socialization of school, which is really sad.
So sad.
and like so many other things, like even like concept of like how you see your body, right? Like growing up, I was actually a pretty healthy weight, but in my head, I didn't think I was, because like the socialization of like, I remember watching movies where they would say like, does my butt look big? And like they didn't want their butt to look big. And now you're like, oh my gosh, I want the biggest butt ever.
Yeah. Give me a fake booty. Yeah.
Yeah. So like those socializations where like I was at a healthy and like my like body looked like the body of my ancestors, which was like gorgeous. Anyway, like I look back at it now, I was like, oh my gosh, girl.
Yeah.
So, like those are smaller things, but then you'll see like the huge things that come out of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's another weird thing about, I wouldn't say it's not real, but it is pretty crazy how like our beauty standards change, and then all of a sudden like it's bananas. It's literally bananas. Like and then the lengths that we go through, all of us, to like look and want to be what's like socially acceptable, and how that can just change like at the drop of a hat. Like back in the day, thin eyebrows were like all the fucking rage, and now you want like the thickest eyebrows in the world. And when that happened, I was really like, fuck, dude, I don't want to be listening to like what anyone says, because like people can't make up their mind. Like just do whatever I think I like.
Yeah, exactly. And like saw something that was saying that bodies are becoming more like of a trend. But then recently, I haven't read this book yet, but I really want to read it. I use like the free library app, so I'm on online or something. But I was talking about how actually like fat phobia, for example, is actually racist. Who would have thought? But like it is. It's like embedded in racism. So like even the structures of like phobias are embedded in racism. And it's just like, oh my gosh. So like I wonder I know when it became a thing, especially with like the slave trade. That's when like fat phobia became more rampant. But I wonder how many times we're replicating that without knowing, and we're just saying it's a trend.
Yeah. That's really interesting.
So much. It's just so complex. I love it.
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm pausing and thinking of like 7 different things at once, but one of the things that's also just like clocking for me is like, it's not even a trend that like the body stuff switches. It's like at the same time, you are supposed to have an excellent, perfect big ass and also no ass at all, right? At the same time, you are supposed to like have big tits, but also not big tits, right? It's like,
well, do you mean because like none of it's yeah, I guess I'm curious, what do you mean by that?
Because I just mean like, I think that there's I mean, I'm mindful of not wanting to be the white lady who shifts the conversation away from specifically racism. Right? So like, but I think that there's a way that like our body narrative is like just to make bodies wrong, right? It doesn't fucking matter what it is. It's like the body's wrong. Right. So is it wrong because it's too big or too small, or big in this place and it should be in this place?
Yeah, we've had this conversation before where like my friend who like was bustier thought that she needed smaller boobs. I have small boobs, and then I think I need to have big boobs. It's like no matter what you have, it's like not good enough.
It's not right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And to your point, Niké, of like being like a fucking $1 million snack, and you're like, oh, there must be something wrong here, right? It's like it's the
perfectionism. That is this thing that is literally unachievable, and so therefore you will always be in the hamster loop of just going forever if that's what you're seeking. It's like it's a really dangerous, never-ending pit of despair.
Yeah, and it's also so confusing too. I feel like I grew up with a mother who, like, she doesn't, sorry, mom, but like, she doesn't shave her legs, right? Like, she doesn't care about like body hair and stuff and like things like that. But like in the States, that was like a huge thing, right? Like when I turned 12, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to start shaving. And so I was thinking about it recently. Like I saw Mutual, they were talking about how now that they're pregnant, their body's changing in so many ways, and like they have to really think about things and like let their body just do its thing. But like when they first look at their stomach, for example, they're like, the first thought that comes to their head is like, I need to get rid of that, because they're not thinking like, oh, there's a child there. They're thinking like, oh, I'm getting bigger. And then I realized like, that's not a thought process I actually have at all. And I don't know, well, I think it's very cultural. Like there is like fat phobia, I think everywhere. But like the way that our particular parts of our bodies look, there's a difference culturally. Like I grew up going to West Africa, and you just see women with like their boobs just like out, and they look all types of way, and no one's like, oh, like this is the perfect boob shape. But like in the States, like there is a perfect boob shape. Like it's just weird.
Yeah.
Like there's fat phobia everywhere, but then like you'll see like the specific things like in ways that you have to look differ place to place. Especially the parts that are like the most likely to change. Like if you have children, then your breasts are going to change. Like that's inevitable. But then like there's like mommy makeovers or like changing, you know? So like those are like certain things that I'm like, I didn't grow up thinking those things, because that's not a big deal in our culture. Like fat phobia is, right? Like you need to be skinnier, but not like certain features that we have. Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't know. Humans are fucking weird, dude. Why do we always pick the thing that's like, I think what you said was so interesting about how it's the thing that's going to change most. I just feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot, because we always, the beauty standard is always based on what is the most impossible. So like aging, it makes no fucking sense. Like the thing that we're all going to experience, by the way, like, and how we value youth culture, but it doesn't make any sense, because I'm like, we all suffer from that. Like we all end up suffering, and yet we also create it. And it's literally insanity. It is insane.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a way of making, like, I think women in particular, just like wrong, no matter what, because it's like you're young and like, check, you have the young, like the beauty standard of being a beautiful young woman. And also like, there's a lot of beautiful research about how like vocal fry and like a lot of the ways in which we criticize teenage girls is like literally just because we hate on teenage girls, right? It's like even like certain like fandoms is like, oh well, that's just a bunch of teenage girls, right? There's a certain kind of like there's a certain kind of way that we make being a young woman like really wrong, even as it's the only way you can be beautiful. And then you start to be like a woman who has like power and wisdom, and now you're just fucking old and ugly, right? It's like there's like no winning. There's no winning.
No winning.
It's like all just a game. It's all just a fucking game to make you wrong, and with probably the idea that you pay money to be less wrong.
Yeah, it's all part of the capitalistic loop. I don't know. I talk about this a lot. Yeah,
it is. And even like I see a lot in spirituality too. Like right now, a huge thing in spirituality is divine feminism. And I saw someone, this always irritates me when someone makes a reference to hot girl summer, because I always see people like shifting it. They're like, it's not hot girl summer, it's a healthy girl summer. And it's like, hot girl summer wasn't for you in the first place.
I know, I saw that. I saw something like that too. And I was like, what?
Many things can be like, some people, their hot girl summer is the healthy girl summer. And like this like wanting to shift concepts, especially concepts that don't come from their community. Like hot girl summer is like a Black woman thing. It's like, that's who like really gets it. And like, you can intersect with it, but like just shifting it, like you could have just not even mentioned the hot girl summer and just said, it's a healthy gal summer. I don't know, healthy chick summer, you know, like even things like that. Like, and I see something with divine feminine work, which I did like a couple years back, and I regret it so much, because I was like, oh my gosh, the most unintersectional thing ever. That wasn't a word, but it's okay.
Oh no, I'm doing like celebration hands, because listeners love to, maybe they do. I love to. I have thoughts and feelings on this, so please take the stage.
I'm excited to hear, but yeah, I'm just like, now you'll see people like, especially women, talking about like, well, if you want to be more feminine and you want to tap into your dark feminine, you have to do this. And then also people were like, no, you don't want to tap into your dark feminine. You need to tap into your light feminine. And like, if you want to yield in the things, like you need to do this. And I'm just like, this is all just like jargon to sell something. You like, we always feel like, again, like it's so heavily embedded in the capitalism, like you were mentioning. We always have to come up with something new and something like just like divine and sultry and like mysterious to make sales, basically.
More containers too. I think that's what's dangerous about it, is it's just more boxes.
Oh yeah. And I'm just like, in my head, I'm like cringing at the fact that I was like, I'm a divine feminine coach like a couple years ago. That I'm like, how do people not see
all
how
on the fucking journey? It's fine, Nike.
But how do people not see how alienating that is to so many people, like especially in this day and age? But I guess, again, the lack of intersectionality and like your realities intersecting with other people's realities. But now I'm just like, oh my gosh, how? And like, it's also ironic because again, like we like to hate on women and women things too. And I think like that's an epitome of hating on women things, because like, no, like I'm sure some people talk about the divine masculine, but no one, you don't really see people like divine masculine coaches or like, this is how you have to tap into the divine masculine, like projecting that to men, because men are going to say, I know how to be a man. But why is it that women need to be coached on being a woman? Mm-hmm. You don't. It's just that we are sold that we have to. Mm-hmm. But you just being you is you being a woman if you identify with being a woman.
Preach, girl.
So
yes. Did you want to jump in, Kyley? I feel like you love, this is like.
I do. This is my foray into academia was gender studies. So when we have an opportunity to bring gender studies on the show, like academic Kyley gets all like, oh, it's my time to shine. I thought we got retired. But I think, and I have some really dear friends who do beautiful work around like feminine embodiment. So I don't want to like paint some like broad stroke where like all of it is trash, right?
Yeah.
Totally. There are people doing, I think, really beautiful work. And also I just want to add like so much nuance and also throw a bunch of it away.
Yes, so much nuance.
Yeah. I think that's, sorry, go ahead. No, go.
No, it's okay. Because I think a lot of what is getting packaged as divine feminine is actually just sexism. Right? It's just like, oh, be submissive. How can you, like, in order to receive, you have to be passive, right? Yeah. Receiving energy is submissive. And I just think that it lacks a tremendous amount of nuance. I rarely find a divine feminine coach who I think makes space for like people who aren't cis women. I just, not to mention including all these things you're pointing to about intersectionality and the way like the like embodied experience as a white woman is perhaps a different embodied experience as a woman of color. And like, if you're going to talk about the divine feminine, you can't do it justice and just talk about and only have your lens be your white lady lens, you know? As a white lady who has a white lady lens, right? Like I just think I just think it's trash.
Yeah,
that is
I think that's real salty.
That sexism piece is interesting. I guess I don't know, I don't read a lot of that like divine feminine stuff, so I don't see it a lot, but I think that is actually very interesting. I don't know, you're teaching me something new, that this is like something that people say.
It's just too like I know that I started doing divine feminine work because I was really scared to, I felt like the like easiest, like well-received thing, right? Like I come from like a Catholic background. So I was like, well, like, you know, like Mother Mary, like people would agree that she's divine feminine, right? Yeah. And like, there's also like the stigma, like
Mother Mary is totally the like gateway goddess to like Kali and other
yeah, exactly. But then also like it's really interesting because like I started with divine feminine work and I was really good at it. I won't lie. And actually, I wasn't even doing divine feminine work, to be honest. It was more so I was calling concepts divine feminine, which was totally wrong. Like creativity isn't inherently feminine, like things like that. Inclusivity isn't. But it was very flowery and it was very acceptable to people. So when I switched to like centering Black and Indigenous healing and like talking and speaking out about white supremacy and being anti-racist, I saw a lot of shifts in my number, understandably. And I realized that I was just doing that work because I wasn't yet comfortable like speaking, being loud with like what I genuinely and authentically thought or was like starting to understand. And so sometimes I see it too as like, it's like dipping the toe, right? And so like people aren't really intentional about it, right? Because it's just like, oh, I'm just dipping the toe and like most people are going to accept this. Like I think most people do accept still like the gender binaries and like this is how it is and da 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 da.
Yeah.
Which I always have to remember too, like I know about these things because of my academia. Like I was in academia. That's why. I don't know where I would be if I was like in another bubble. So it's like, it's very, like nobody's gonna say like, oh my gosh, you're terrible for doing divine feminine work.
Because there's richness in everything, right? Like we can get out of anything. I think I love what your point about like creativity, like there's no gender to creativity. I love that so much because I think I'm sorry, I got all excited and I cut you off. Finish your point.
No, continue.
I just I think you know the place you brought us in the very beginning about intersectionality and also kind of this framework of white supremacy that really imbues everything. I think my personal frustration with kind of divine feminine masculine stuff is that it lacks the nuance of looking critically at our gender at the same time that it is trying to allow us access to a new lens of gender, right? So if you want to talk about divine feminine and divine masculine while simultaneously unpacking the way that it's promoting capitalism and white supremacy and all sorts of toxic bullshit, fucking great. But if you just want to talk about it without that critical lens, I can't see how it doesn't just reinforce the same bullshit that got us here in the first place.
Yeah. And I wonder how much, again, of it is internalized oppression. Like, I identify with being a Black woman, but I don't necessarily identify with womanhood. Like, to me, it's just like, like, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm proud to be a woman. Like, I'm more so like, oh, I identify really as a Black woman because that's a unique experience. But I don't think you'll really hear me say like, I'm a woman. Like there will always be Black in front of it. And like, it really has less to do with gender and more to do with experience, right? And you'll see a lot of Black women talking about that. Like I present to the world as a Black woman, and there's so much oppressive and systemic structures in place that's an identity I carry with me because it's a unique lived experience. But like I was thinking like a couple months ago, I was like, okay, what makes me a woman? I was like really thinking, I was like, oh, I really like to go shopping. Men like to go shopping. Non-binary people like to go shopping. I like to do my nails. A lot of different people like to do their nails. Like I couldn't come up with anything that was like, I really feel tied to the identity of woman.
Yeah. Or even like, I think a lot of the sometimes more equally dangerous is that like a woman is caring, a woman is sensitive, a woman is like that, well, whatever, you know,
generous,
all these
self-sacrificing,
self-sacrifice. There we go. That's a good one. Like, you know, the caretaker, like all of that stuff too is also interesting because I don't know where I was going with that. Just this idea of I kind of lost my train of thought. Do you guys remember where I was going with that?
Yeah, like how that could be really dangerous too, because any human can be that.
Right. Well, that's because then that's saying like men can't be that. And that, and that women have to be that. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, and like the thing that you said about like creativity. What did you say? Creativity isn't reserved just for women. Well, it's like such a great like really hit a chord for me that helped me understand in a deeper way. And this might seem obvious, but it's also like hitting into me with this idea of like binaries are just like everything else, right or wrong, good or bad. Like race is just, it's just like a way for people, our intellectual brains, to want to understand something. Like when I think about the people who are teaching divine feminine, and again, I don't know that many of them, sure, I see it in text sometimes, I wonder why they do that. And I think it's because it's an easy way for them to organize something, because we all want to organize something. This is going back to even our conversation about time. It's like, it's not organized. Like it can't be organized. It just doesn't, it's not real. It's
fucking chaos.
Yeah. And yes, yeah, we want, but like there is like this nice little neat packaging that I think, I don't know, I think what's so weird about what's tricky about this is it can, I think, actually be helpful for some people sometimes, but I also think that in the long term it's like really detrimental.
Yeah. And I think that contributes, this is another pillar of white supremacy, which is either or thinking. So like it has to be like this or like this, and there's not a lot of room in the middle, or like black and white thinking too. Like I had a friend, we're not friends anymore, but it's not like, well, I guess we went through a breakup, but it wasn't like dramatic or anything. We just like had a conversation, and they were saying that their biggest problem is black and white thinking, whereas I like am thinking in all the colors. Like I'm just like, well, there's this and there's also this. Like I'm on the spectrum, and I think that contributes to like wanting these boxes, right? Like this has to be in this place, in this place, in this place. But again, once you get more intersectional, you realize, oh my gosh, that box is falling over into the next box and mixing up. Like there's actually no boxes. And I think some people think that is easier like to think about, right? But it's also like limiting.
Yeah, but it's really not. It's actually not easier, because like when you think about, look at how we're doing. Like, you know,
like we're not doing
so hot. So obviously it's not easier.
The earth is on fire.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like people are happy and everyone's pissed off. Yeah, it's not working. And that's but colonialism wants to tell us that it works. Like,
yeah, definitely. And then we use like other countries to say, well, like it is kind of working because look at that other country. Meanwhile, you go to the other country years later and you're like, I thought y'all were doing bad. Like it's like also perspective and perception. Like recently I saw that, and this makes total sense, but I was watching this video and they said that a lot of pictures of third world countries, I put in quotations because I think the United States is a third world country. Like no one can convince me.
It's a pretty good argument. The argument can be made. There is data to back you up.
Like it's like very comparative. But a lot of third world countries, they'll put like a yellow tint on them and like a yellow filter, so it looks more like sad and like dreary and gross. And like when you take away the filter, like sometimes you can't tell if that's like just another part of the world that's not considered a third world country. And I was just like, it really is like perception, like them making you think this way. Or like when people being African, like not growing up from my parents saying this, but from other people saying like, well, you better finish your food. Like, what about the kids in Africa? It's like, what about the kids down the road? Like most schools are free and reduced lunch. Like they get free and reduced lunch. So like, we don't have to like separate the idea that of children going hungry to another like country as if it doesn't exist in our world here. But then like people like make those distinctions because they don't want to have to deal with reality at home, like that they actually could help. Maybe you can't help a kid in Africa, right? Like maybe you could send a couple of dollars and you're like, I did the good work. But like down the street you can't help your neighbor. Like it's like closer to home of like, oh, I actually have to do some work.
You know, it's interesting. So I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and you know, we know that if you're not actively teaching anti-racism, like then your kids are like we know that we're just like seeped in this culture, right? My husband's also white, and you know, anyway, the point of my story is I had a recent conversation with my son, who's 5, and I thought it was hilarious and also marveling at how much we want to think good of the place that we live. Mm-hmm. So we were driving home, we were listening to a song that was like an old timey, like Celtic song, and my son was asking what the lyrics meant, and so it was an entry point to explain to him about the potato famine, because culturally my family's Irish. My daughter recently thought shamrocks were broccoli, and I was like, well, my grandfather's going to come back and start fucking haunting me if I don't start teaching them something about their Irish
really
culture.
Cute though, and a very good. I mean, I get that. Like,
yeah, her birthday is fucking St. Patrick's Day. Okay, like I need to figure out. Yeah. she probably needs to know St. Patrick's Day. But yes, it was pretty cute. So anyway, so we're like explaining the potato famine to Desi, and I was saying how like you know, and I was like trying to like give him context of like the British Empire and Ireland, and he's like just recently old enough for like actual interesting history conversations, and he's very tender, and so he was like very upset about it, and basically was like writing his own fanfic version about how the British Empire just like went away when the potato famine went away, and was like kind of upset. And I was like, you know, I forget exactly what he said, but I was like, well, you know, buddy, like America's an empire too. Like America does a lot of these same things in the place that we live. And his little 5-year-old brain was just like he couldn't, I was just watching this like kind of crumpling happen, which is great. Like I'm happy for that to happen. I'm like was excited to have an opportunity to like crumple something for him, I suppose. But the point of this story is, I think it was just fascinating to me how like it made me realize how much like we really want to like our own story. We really want to be the heroes, and we really want the place that we are from to be like the place of heroes. Anyway, I know this is a kind of tangent, but
no, I'm like loving this story. I'm sorry, I feel like we need like backup. Just like there's just so much to unpack. Like this idea of also, I don't know. I'm just, you know, it's because it's heartbreaking, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I think that's what this experience is about. It's like Desi, this like idealistic like being of love, you know, and just wants to like, yeah, and to hear that is difficult. And I think that's part of the lesson, is that you have to hear difficult things. And then sorry, then the second piece is also like, yeah, I don't know, what is that? Like, why is it that we want that so badly? Like to love the place that we're from, or I guess we don't want to believe that we're the bad guys. It's too painful. Yeah. It's too painful that we are like the causers of harm.
Yeah.
I
think that's why white people suck all the time. Right?
No, I think it becomes an individual. Like I recently, you always hear the story, like the line, like hurt people, but I realized recently that hurt people don't want to be the ones to know that they hurt someone, right? Like some people rather see themselves as a victim than someone who harmed someone else, because it's just easier for them to understand that. Like it's easier for them to process that. And I think with like countries too, well, in certain countries, there's such like nationalism, nationalism? Like I'm so proud to be from this country, which is really interesting. Because I think, like, I grew up going to France every summer. And so for like a good example is like the World Cup, right? Like every country's there to rep, right? And I grew up like, not necessarily want to rep France, but I would rep every single African country, even though my African country wasn't there, right? I was just like happy to see an African guy there. So I think it also depends like what part of your country is like a major like country player, right? Like obviously the United States is a big one. I'm forgetting the name. England is a big one. Like Spain, I guess, France, right? Those are the major players. And so people who feel tied to that country, they want to think like we were the ones who fought. Like even the way that we're taught history, right? Like World War II, we're taught we were the heroes, we came in. Like, even though like technically we weren't, actually we were very slow. Like,
real slow.
We took our time.
And then committed terrible human rights atrocities.
Right. Or like literally the whole, like it was actually based on like how they treated enslaved people in the United States too. Like we were like the rule book, right? Like even things like that. But I grew up watching Jackie Chan movies and movies about the South African apartheid. That's all my parents.
Yeah, Jackie Chan. I love Jackie Chan growing up too. And like, that guy can move anyway. Yeah. So
we also watch a lot of Jackie Chan.
I don't know why, but Africans love Jackie Chan.
I love this. I love that everyone loves Jackie Chan. He's just very entertaining.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah. Like I was literally in Taekwondo because I was like, I need to learn how to do this. But growing up watching South African apartheid movies, I was just like, wait a second. Where's the US for this? Like we learn about so many other things where the US is like there ready. Even with the Ukraine, right? We're like, oh, we're there. Where's the Ukraine? Like, where is the US for so many other things that are happening right now? And so it's like even understanding like the relationships, right? Like people are seeing like the major players, like the things that they think like in value, but they're not looking internally. Because there's like this understanding too, like you don't want to be a part of like the bad team. Like we're taught that with like superhero movies, right?
Yeah.
But even me, I've been like, I always actually resonate with the villain more than the hero. I really,
Oh my God,
like
that must be why we're friends.
I get that too. There's that meme that says like, you know, when the villain's making a really good point, sometimes that happens.
Yeah, every villain I see, I'm like, as you should. You should. I would be pissed off too. Like I made a podcast episode about embracing the villain and I got like a lot of like listeners and I got some feedback of like people who were like, you should always just like come from the kindness of your heart. No.
Niké, my retreats are literally called Monster School. Like this is literally my whole brand.
Yeah, like I resonate so much with the villains and like with the characters who are in the middle because and like much more than the villains. I was on medical leave and I spent all those 2 weeks watching Marvel movies and every time, except for the big guy, Thanos, I didn't really get him.
Yeah.
But any other villain, I was just like, yeah, like I love Harley Quinn because as she should, like all these, and I just think but again, we're socialized, like the US, like the biggest thing, like Captain America, of course, you want to be the hero, like he's even the captain of the United States, you know? So we resonate so much with like the hero mindset that we also have been socialized to that. And we see all these other like little players as villains.
You were gonna say something, Eva?
Yeah, do you want, you can go first. Yeah.
Just briefly, I think in my experience, one of the things that keeps us really invested in being like the good guy and like performing our goodness is in a way that is actually like harmful and full of defense and like, no, don't point a finger at me. I think it's like tremendous shame. You know, I think we are really, we don't like, shame is the emotion we want to experience least of all, and we avoid it at all costs. And being told like, hey, that thing you did is kind of racist can cause you to feel tremendous shame. And so it's easier, it seems, to throw up defense rather than acknowledge the truth of that and experience the shame that comes along with that. I think, I just feel like 99% of our problems are like some way of us avoiding shame.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was just saying I was going to say something similar, which is that I don't think we know how to deal with badness. And I think like and I think this would be an interesting thing to go through with like children, like Desi. It's like when he actually knowing like what he doesn't want to experience is shame, is to give him the tools to actually learn how to process shame. Because I think as humans, we like, this is very much what we talk about a lot in my meditation practice, like we will do harm. Like that's inevitable. We will do harm. And I think the question is, can you like sit with and accept and be with the harm that you've caused? And I think if we had tools to do that, then maybe it wouldn't be, then like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about would be easier. But, and then also like a callback to what you were saying earlier, Niké, about how we don't have community. And so like, we're so fragile because I think we're like defensive, right? And so we're on a like pedestal, we're fragile and we don't want to be the bad guys. And maybe if we had more built-in like systematic community, it wouldn't be so high stakes all the time.
Yeah. I also think, because I do a lot of like what propels me to do this work and to like do anything I really do is now this relationship I have with my ancestors. So I do a lot of ancestral work and healing and veneration. And I think people don't realize that they hold a lot of ancestral guilt and shame too. Like that's why sometimes something happens or we experience something and we instantly feel shame and we don't realize why or understand why. And I think it can be really tied down to it being passed down generationally.
Can you just like break all of this down? I want to, so this is one of your specialties, and I think you have a retreat coming up, right?
Oh yeah. I have an ancestral healing retreat.
Yeah, so we're definitely going to want to like highlight that at the end. But Kyley, have we ever had anyone, I feel like we talk about ancestral stuff all the time, but it's not a focused conversation. I feel like it's thrown around here and there.
I agree.
Yeah. So I think, okay. So within ancestral work, and I like to outline this because I gotten viral on TikTok for talking about ancestral work, and there's like such a resistance for a lot of people because they're like, I don't want to work with my ancestors. They were the worst. And I'm like, you're not like sitting down with them and kikiing and saying like, advise me on my life. It's like really understanding programming. Like that's a lot of the work I do when it comes to ancestral healing and generational healing is like understanding the programming that's been passed down, like from your parents and their parents and their parents, but also spiritually, I think, and intuitively you could hold these mindsets too. Like a lot of people, when you talk about scarcity mindset, they really focus on like their lived experience around scarcity mindset, where it could be like passed down the line, and until you find the roots, it's going to start manifesting over and over and over again and like down the line. So there's ancestral work, and then you have ancestral healing, right? Like actually healing. You may acknowledge the ancestors who were not so kind, but you don't really take them on as like, you're going to be my guide, you're going to give me advice. It's just like having an understanding of like, this is what you did, this is what happened in your lifetime, how can I do better? And then there's ancestral veneration, which is like when you really create and build a strong relationship with your ancestors, you honor them, and you really upheld their memory and their manifestations and their creations. And the thing that I love about ancestral connection and understanding ancestral connection is like, as a human being, no matter what you believe, if you believe in reincarnation or like you're a starseed or what have you, you have to enter a human line. Like there's just, you like from what you know of, like you can't just like pop out and say like, I'm a human. Like you need a line that you enter. And so if we believe that we pick our families and we pick our names or we pick our lived experience, you picked your lineage. Now, I practice more African spirituality, and like ancestrally for us, like you like rotate through the line. So it's like, you are your ancestors, but regardless what you think of, like in order to be a human, you have to enter a line. And I think understanding our lineage is really important. I know a lot of people like to talk about past lives. I'm more interested on your ancestors' lives, because you don't know if your past life was in Egypt. Like maybe their Akashic records told you, maybe Bethany just had some really nice laced tea. Like you really don't truly know, but your ancestors, like you could trace that and you can understand those experiences. Like it's like a more concrete way to kind of help support your navigation of this lifetime. And so just like our ancestors passed down like high cholesterol, like having vision problems, like like even autism we're seeing is passed down through the line, right? I think again, programming and trauma, we even see trauma, especially when we I know they've done a lot of research on Black Americans and those who came from enslaved people. There you can see the generational trauma there that's been passed down and how it affects people. Those things are passed down the line too. And so sometimes when we find ourselves in these spaces of like the same cycle happening over and over again, and we don't know how to navigate it, and we've like done all the things, we've aligned our chakras, sorry. I don't really believe in chakras, I'd like to say. But we've done all the right things, and this problem is still popping up. It's like, well, have you done the inner work and the ancestral work? Because I truly believe we are a manifestation of our ancestors too. Like, we would not be here without their perseverance, the work that they did, good or bad. Yeah. And so we hold those concepts and those privileges too. Like, I know I'm in a position of privilege because of my ancestors. And I also know I'm in the privilege of oppression because of my ancestors. And also the ancestors of others. And you'll also see in a lot of BIPOC communities or cultures, there actually is a huge emphasis on ancestors and ancestral veneration. Like, I work at an elementary school, so I have to keep up with all the Disney movies because my kids grill me. And like, I was watching Red Panda. Have you all seen? Oh my God. It's so great.
Kyley, have you seen it yet?
I have not yet seen it. It's like a little too old for my kids, so it's like on my list, but it doesn't have the same, like Encanto I've watched 8 trillion times, but Red Panda is on my list.
Wait, can we like sidebar for a second? Because I'm just gonna spoil alert, but just a little thing about Red Panda. I'm so glad you brought that up because I've been wanting to talk about it, where they talk about periods in the movie, which was like,
oh yeah,
so fucking awesome. Like that, I love that movie on so many levels, but then also the fact that that comes up just like nonchalantly, I thought was like really, I was kind of surprised, like that never happens. Anyway, so that was delightful. Cool. But anyway, yeah, sorry, I think I know where you're going with the Red Panda stuff, because they talked about the ancestors.
Yeah, like there's a huge ancestral generational, like that was a huge part of the storyline, huge. And like I also Encanto, ancestral work. Coco, ancestral work. Like in so many cultures, actually, there's a huge emphasis on ancestral work and honoring your ancestors. Even the superhero movie, what was it called? Awkwafina's in it.
Seven Rings,
Seven Rings. Ancestral work. Black Panther, ancestral, like it's all and you see in so many BIPOC communities, even in the model world. And so I was like, really, I don't even know where I was going with that.
But I dig it, and it is interesting that it is a big part of like a lot of all the cultures. I grew up with that. That was just there's always an altar to my ancestors in my grandparents' house, and we just
exactly. Yeah, same. And so I was kind of disconnected from that because, again, being first gen in America, you're like, I want to fit in. But then I realized a lot of things I was working through, not only like self-work, but like, how do I navigate racism? Like, I'm kind of over it. Like all these things, like not only was I trying to get advice from my parents, right? But I felt like internally or spiritually, I was connecting ancestrally to help guide and support me, which was really nice because also, again, mentioning the ETs, like, I feel like ETs don't like me because every advice I get from like someone who's channeling or like dropping a note is like, it will all be okay.
But that's what they always say. That's like all that.
That's what they always say.
Eternal message, which I think maybe because I think there's some truth to that. But
right. But I get so pissed because I'm like, you don't understand. You're not human. You're up there with the rocks. Like, you just don't get it. But with your ancestors, they get it because they were human. They lived on the same earth. They were like, they drink the same water. They're in the same dirt. Like, they get it. They lived the experience. They understand how it is to be on earth. ETs don't necessarily understand. Like, all these other deities don't necessarily understand, right?
I may have once yelled at a deity, like, you're not in a body, buddy.
Right, like fuck off. Get it.
I love that.
But my ancestors would get it every single time. And they also had the connection of like being, in another realm, right? So it's like a nice mix between the two. I forgot the original question.
Well, I think, this is great. This is great. I think it's really cool to hear you just talk about you're kind of giving like an overview of like ancestral work, ancestral healing, ancestral veneration. I think my question is, I actually don't know anything about ancestral work or healing. Like, obviously it's going to be more than you can explain in a podcast, which is why you're having a retreat about it. But what is ancestral work and or healing? I guess what's the difference? And if someone wanted to start on that journey, do you have thoughts on like what might be helpful? I think.
Yeah. So I think I approach ancestral work differently than a lot of people. So ancestral work to me is just like doing the work around getting to know your ancestors and getting to know yourself. And that could be like the self work, but it could also be like, where did we fuck up down the line?
When you say like getting to know, you mean like asking your parents and maybe asking your grandparents and like doing research and that kind of thing? Is that
actually not necessarily? For myself and also my clients, I've actually noticed that the information comes to you once you just start thinking of them and connecting. So I don't really think you need to know like exactly where your ancestors came from and like what language they spoke and what culture they came from to start doing work. Because if you think about it too, there's like so many different lines. There's just so many different lines. And again, with colonialism, there's a lot of people who come from so many different lines. Even myself, I realized that. So when I started doing ancestral work, I was like, this is easy because my parents are West African. We weren't necessarily affected by, well, we were affected by it, but like no one was taken somewhere else. And I was pretty close to my culture. And again, like I knew my tribes and things like that. We still have like family land, things like that. I was wrong, which was like, again, I didn't have to do the research myself, right? Because I thought I knew it all. I didn't even ask my parents. And then I realized that actually on my mom's side, we did have someone, or like part of that line was enslaved in Brazil. So that's why we have Portuguese DNA or genetic makeup. And so they were enslaved and they were slaves in Brazil. And then there was a slave revolution and they went back to West Africa, which not a lot of people do, right? There was only like not a handful, but like a couple thousand people who did that. And so if I hadn't started ancestral work, I would have known that. I would have just been like, we were always in the same spot. So that came to me. It was just like little pieces, like randomly, my mom sends me a picture. This was an ancestor. And I'm like, this is random. My mom doesn't even do ancestral work. And then like, I Google something and something pops up and I'm like, this is also random. Like I never expected this to come up. And so I don't think you need to know concrete things about your lineage to start doing the work. And then things start being revealed to you. It's like, it is in a magical way.
Yeah. No,
that's a question
magical.
Becomes the prayer.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I totally get that. I think that actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. Because I think that is something people are concerned of. They're like, I don't know my ancestors, don't know where I'm from, or people who may be adopted, like they're not really sure. Yeah. And again, they're a part of you, like they're within you. So like, you're really just connecting to yourself. And I think like, if you believe that you have like spirit guides and things like that, like, how do we get to know them? Like, yeah, we could like Google little things, but like, it's really by like, just engaging in a relationship every single day. And that's the same thing with ancestral work.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
I feel like I have a million questions, but Kyley, do you want to jump in before I ask my next question?
No,
have you done ancestral work, Kyley? Or does it feel does it come up like in the Akashic records?
Yeah, I definitely have, like in my own like experience, like my grandmother's really close and like shows up like a lot, just like her energy and her presence. And it definitely will show up. Even actually yesterday in a client session, I work in the record. Anyway, that's a whole other tangent. But I do this work, I think, differently than a lot of like records work often is. But I had a client who like part of the space we held was like releasing this ancestral baggage of like performance in order to be taken care of. And there was like this kind of energetic weight on her shoulders that we released. So it shows up in all sorts of different ways where it might not be like one of my favorite sessions ever was this client who her ancestors literally like lifted her up on their shoulders. They turned into giants and lifted her up on their shoulders. And they were like, you're not paying back a debt anymore. Like we are carrying you over mountains. It was so fucking great and cool. So yeah, I do have some personal experience, but not with the kind of, what you're speaking to feels a lot more intentional, right? For me, it's like my grandmother, like I like feel my grandmother's energy pop in, or like it shows up in a client session, but it isn't, I don't know, there feels like a real intentionality to the way you're speaking to it that I really loving.
Yeah, I would say like I transitioned to my spirituality centers my ancestors and myself, whereas I think before, like I did a lot of work with goddesses. I connect to a lot of goddesses, and like, you know, I would dabble with like different energies and concepts, whereas now like it centers ancestral connection, and that centers myself. Which again, I don't know too many people who actually do that. Like I haven't really seen that. And I also think too, like when I think of my ancestors, it's not individual. Because also growing up, like I didn't grow up with my grandparents. Like I grew up like seeing like them every other summer, but like to the day to day where like a lot of people have like family, I only have my parents in the States. So when I think of my ancestors, it's like a hub, right? I set a connection to connect with my ancestors who are for my highest good, because we have some not so great ancestors. Like everyone has some not great,
which is what I want to ask you about.
Yeah. But it's more so like a fluid energy. It's not just one. Like sometimes one steps forward, but it's usually like all of them at once, which is like a dense energy too. Like not everyone can handle that.
Okay. Well, because I think I have been more and more increasingly really attracted and interested in like in connecting with my ancestors or understanding. It's just appealing to me, and I really trust that. Like when something is calling to you and you're like, oh, this is interesting, I feel like I want to listen to that. And at the same time, almost to like a superstitious level, I don't know where it's coming from. Kyley, you've heard me talk about this all the time. I think I just get spooked by like the spooks, but I also don't want to go there, because I just like, well, what about my asshole ancestors? And I know you can fucking hear me right now, but what about the assholes who maybe like aren't here for your highest good? I think I'm wondering like, how can I dive into this work that feels safe? Because I have to be honest, there's something there that actually feels unsafe. And I don't know if that's me or superstition, or if there's actually, because I know that some of my ancestors are fucked up, and like maybe not all your ancestors want the highest good for you, right?
Yeah, not all your ancestors want the highest good for you, actually.
What if some of them are just trying to fuck you up?
Yeah, some of them are.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of them definitely are, especially if because again, we make up so many lines.
But why would they want that? I don't understand.
Well, because they were still human. I guess some people like, they're like, oh, you go to the other side and you feel like maybe you are better, but I feel like sometimes it still manifests as like their human form. I don't really know how it works on the other side, to be honest. I haven't really dived into that. But I think the biggest thing you have to know with ancestral work is like setting really strong boundaries. Actually, once you set, you'll see it replicated. When you set strong boundaries with your ancestors, you'll see how you set it with your family, because you have to think about it again, like your ancestors are like your family members in real life.
Oh, I love that.
The relationships.
I've been trying to set boundaries in my family my entire life, so I can do that.
So maybe that's actually what it's about, right? Maybe it's actually a concern about living family boundaries.
Yeah, they're very similar, because like literally that's your family. Like everything your family knows and does now, they learned from that.
No, yeah, that's actually very helpful. I find relief in that though, because I think I'm at a place where I'm like, I've just practiced so much that I feel pretty good about my family boundaries. I just need to know that I can apply that to ancestors.
Yeah.
Like, transfer that. That's cool.
And I'll set strict boundaries. I'll say like, first, I'm only connected with my ancestors of love and highest intention.
Yeah.
And then like, if I have an ancestor, well, actually this hasn't happened. Like my ancestor, it's like, so I would say like my ancestral relationship, it mimics my mom's, like my relationship with my mom and my relationship with my dad. Like my mom and I's relationship can be a little like more kiki joking. And so like, I'll talk to them back like I talked to my mom. And then like some ancestors is more like my dad and like they're more like stern. It's like, okay, I'll listen, whatever you have to say. But like I joke around with them. I'll tell them like they're annoying me when they tell me something mean, like things like that, like come through a reading. So, but then like some people feel like if they have a relationship with their parents where there was like strong, like you have to be very respectful, you have to do this, this, and this, that relationship is mimicked with their ancestors. So it's really intimate and individualized relationship. That's when even I help people do their ancestral connection and their healing. They really are the ones who have to do the work, because your ancestors aren't going to tell me everything. There are some family secrets that they don't want like out. There's grandma who doesn't want me to know about whatever happened. You have to like receive it, right? Like, and that's what's so I think wonderful about it too. Like there's really just like possession almost and protection around you of like, this is for our family and only us. Right? Like this is a gift for you. This is an experience for you, which can be really, really nice too. It's like that community aspect too. Because even if you think about the concept of like spirit guides and like guides in general, they're all very individualistic. Like we could say, yeah, I have a spirit team, but like one of them's an Arcturian and the other one is a cat and the other one is a goddess. Like they don't really intertwine, but with your ancestors, like that's your team of like 100,000 people.
I love that.
Yeah.
Niké, I'm curious how this shows up in your work. One of the things that I have found really beautiful when ancestry work like does show up with clients is how frequently the like kind of invitation is, you have been carrying a pattern and actually the opposite is true, right? Like you have been carrying a pattern that like, you have been carrying the like, our family's legacy has been like that suffering is required. And your like gift to us and the thing that we are like lifting you up towards is actually that like joy is your birthright. And and I feel like I see like when ancestry stuff does show up, it often feels like it's exactly this message, like you have been living the pattern that you learned, and actually we are all here to help you completely fucking invert that, because it is no longer the legacy that our family wants to be holding and that you are required to hold.
Yeah. When you said that, this prompted me to think about how trauma actually lives within the generation for 14 generations, right? Like it's passed down 14 generations. Whoa. And so the thing though, you have to think about is like, just like, for example, twins can skip a generation, so can trauma, right? Like you'll see like, oh, I'm dealing with scarcity mindset, but I don't feel like my aunt on my dad's side ever deals with scarcity mindsets. Because we're also all dealt like different things when it comes to the things that we have to work through based again on our positionality, lived experience, or like whatever they decided up there, I don't know, but based on something. And I think a lot of, so I can even see it with like, you can even see it with the generation beforehand. Like you'll see, I can only speak for like first generation kids or kids of immigrants. Like you'll see there's a lot of shifts happening with like our generation of parents they felt like they had to follow the rules. They couldn't say much. They just had to like get a good education, get a good job. And you're seeing a lot of first gen kids are like doing their parents' worst nightmare of like everything opposite of that. So it's actually not that far off, usually, in my experience. It's like usually like generation to generation. But then you also have to see, I think what's just interesting is sometimes we think it's so drastic, right? When it really isn't. It's actually a very slow process because our family, our parents, their parents, the line could only do so much with the resources they had. Right? So technically, actually, my parents are probably their parents' worst nightmare. Like they left home, they went to like other countries, like they had children later. And then they're probably their parents' worst like nightmare. But like we don't like, because of where we are, for like what took so long, but we can only do so much healing, so much shifting, so much change with the resources that we have. So like my parents couldn't think about like following their dreams to be an artist, right? Because they didn't have the resources to do that. They were living in a third world country where like there's an emphasis on education. That's their arts dream, right? And so like even before that, and so sometimes I think, yeah, we think it is like a longer process. Like we have had to deal with this mindset and this lived experience throughout the generations without realizing what the generation before yours did for you to finally break free. That's why I always say we are our ancestors' manifestations. Like they started the work and some of us are finishing it, or we're building the foundation for our future line to finish. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really beautiful.
Yeah, that is really beautiful.
Yeah.
Woo. I am mindful of time.
Yeah.
I feel like we could
talk to you forever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we would love to have you back on anytime, but in the meantime, you want to come to Joy, our last question?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Does that feel appropriate? I just want to check in. How do you feel, Niké? Is there anything else that maybe you want to touch on that we didn't get to touch on?
Oh no, I'm complete.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure you're good. Okay. So yeah, our last question is, we're going to do a round. What's one thing that's bringing you joy right now?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We force our guests to answer first.
Yeah.
Okay. What's bringing me joy? I guess this kind of has to relate to the lesson, but what's bringing me joy is just like taking well care of myself. Like I mentioned earlier, I was on medical leave, which made me slow down, right? Because we're always like, go, 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 go. And I also had to like be conscious and like take my time with things because I was recovering and healing. And so that has just actually been so nice, is to like be able to take care of myself, and actually such a privilege too. But like I just find such joy in like packing my lunch and like making sure my phone is charged and like just taking care of myself. Like it's just made my like me happier too, which of course, duh, but like you don't really realize until you're like in it and you're doing it.
Yeah, it feels good. And it feels I mean, your future self does actually feel happy when you wake up in the morning and there's no dishes, but also there's something gratifying about it. Like there's this feeling of like, it feels good to love yourself.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I love that. Kyley, do you want me to go next or do you want to go?
I got one. I can go.
Let's go.
So for a birthday gift, I got this really delicious gift from my friend Kelly, who actually listens to the podcast. So hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
She sent me these box of loose leaf tea, and she sent me this like really fucking beautiful loose leaf tea, like a strainer to make tea in that goes into a single cup. And it's got these little like wings on the side, so it sits on top of your cup. And it's got a little cap so you can like keep it like you can keep it warm while it's steeping, but then also it like the cap becomes a thing you could put the like tea in when you're done.
Yeah.
It is the best gift. It makes me so, I mean, you all know how much I love tea, and I have a bunch of really nice loose leaf teas, but I don't have a good solution for it. I have like little paper bags that I don't really like. Anyways, there's something about this whole experience. It's so luxurious, so beautiful. The strainer has this like pattern of honeycombs on the outside, and then she gave me, anyways, it is making me so happy. I can't even put it into words. And I like, because I have all these loose leaf teas that I just never use because it doesn't feel like a luxurious experience. It's like, anyway, so I've been like, this morning, I was like, which of my many teas will I use? And Nick got me some really nice mugs for my birthday. Clearly there's like a theme. It's just like, you know, Kyley and her hot beverages. And I am so happy about the whole experience. So
are you a Taurus?
Oh my God, how did you know? Her birthday just came.
Yeah. I'm a Taurus too.
You are? When's your birthday?
May 18th.
Mine's May 15th. And we're real close to each other. Yeah, that's funny. That was some real Taurus vibes there with my whole like tea extravaganza.
I also love tea. Like that's one of the things I'm like, I'm making my tea for the next day.
Yes, like nothing is as nourishing as like just a perfect cup of tea with, of course, that's the real Taurus vibes. It's like with the perfect luxury accoutrements for your.
I was gonna say, as a fellow tea like drinker, I love this for you because there's like, first of all, tea like accessories. The functionality, I think, of it is what makes me so happy because it's like discovering a thing that you didn't know exists that solved all your problems. That's what you're describing, which is like such a good feeling.
And I like it's also a thing that like I had enough of a solution that I was like not going to go spend the money to like, you know, buy myself a nice better version of this. So I would have just continued to have my sad paper tea bags.
That's a good, you say her name's Kelly? Good looking out.
Yes.
Good looking out, Kelly. Okay, I will share my joy. Well, actually, let me just fucking vent for a second because I'm actually very upset because I'm in Portland and I was just told that it is actually possible for summer not to actually start until like June or maybe even like end of June. And I had no idea that that could be a thing. And I fucking live for summer. I've been in Portland for has it even been a year? It hasn't been a year yet. So I'm just like, I don't know. Did you guys know that's a thing that you can not have a summer? Like my mind is blown.
No, I didn't know.
I just in my mind as someone who's lived in like LA, the desert, and Taiwan, that this would blow your mind.
In my mind, I'm like June, July, August. Those are summer months. Like it's like there's you know, it like I know nothing's real, but I feel like the seasons are real, but apparently not because climate change is also coming in. Anyway, so I'm all salty about that. Because it's still like rainy and like gray for the most part. There are some nice days, but
you've been like light at the end of the tunnel. You thought you were almost there, and it's like totally. Just kidding. It might be another month.
I mean, it is legit. I don't know if you guys have seen Portlandia, but Portlandia, one of the first scenes in Portlandia is like people chasing the sun and like trying to like have little parties underneath the sun, and then the sun moves, and you have to like go to the other place. It's like I'm living that. But if I were to be grateful for something and something that is bringing me joy, it is putting my feet in grass and like grounding myself in that, because for a long time, by the way, I was someone who like didn't get grounding, and I was like, oh, rolled my eyes at it, and I like wasn't a thing. And for the past couple of years, I just had a really wonderful grounding practice. And I have a short window where I have grass available because in the winter it's like too cold for my feet to be barefoot, and then in the summer the grass in Portland just dries out and people don't water it because they're eco-conscious and they don't want to like waste water. So I have this like short window of just waking up and putting my feet in the grass every morning, and it is such a fucking luxury, and I'm pretty sure it's really good for my soul. So that is my joy for this week.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, get out and put your feet in grass. I mean, Kyley, I feel like you have a lot of grass around you, don't you?
I mean, like my actual yard is like the size of a postage stamp, but I do prefer to be barefoot as much as possible in the summer. Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, Niké, this was great. We loved having you on.
Oh, thank you for having me. Thank you to the listener who reached out to y'all.
Yeah, shout out Ricky. How can people follow you? How can they work with you? Tell us all the details.
Yeah, so I have Instagram, and it's just Niké Aurea, Nikeaurea. I also have a website that's nikeaurea.com, where I do like my services. So I do consulting and auditing for people to see if their containers, their businesses, whatever they're doing is safe for BIPOC. And I also help them implement new things to help support and show that it is safe. And just to analyze any racist lenses that they might have and make them anti-racist. I also have a crystal jewelry shop
really?
on the website too.
That's cool. I love this. Yeah.
Yeah. I just like, I do both. I can't pick a niche. I can't.
Yeah, don't do it. Don't put yourself in that box.
Yeah. So if you're into crystal jewelry or mystery boxes, you can check out that. It's all on the same site. And then I have my ancestral healing retreat coming up. We have one more slot. And then I also have a virtual option because I was trying to make it more accessible for my disabled babes and for people who are immunocompromised, because COVID is still very real.
Yeah.
But so I have tickets for the virtual option to engage in a workshop with us, and you get like a goodie bag or goodie box actually, with all the stuff to participate, and it's also more financially accessible. And then I have one more ticket to the in-person retreat that is in Wimberley, Texas, which is about 45 minutes from Austin. And it's a 3-day retreat in June. It's June 24th to 26th, where we focus on ancestral healing and understanding your positionality, understanding how, if you are a white person, how to be a part of spaces that are safe and center Black and Indigenous healing. And if you are a Black and Indigenous person, or you're a person of color, it's a space where you will finally be highlighted and supported in a safe healing space that's intentionally made for that. And we're just gonna have so many amazing parts of it. I'm actually really excited because I have my crystal jewelry shop. I'm like, everyone has to have a goodie box.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And if you're interested, you can check out my website, or you can reach out to me. Looking for that one person.
I mean, I have a feeling that spot's going to be scooped up by the time people get a chance to hear this. So, but if it hasn't been, y'all should definitely check that out.
Yes. Yeah. And it's actually very affordable for retreats.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was a real treat.
Thank you for having me. I haven't been a guest on a, no, just kidding, I have. This was great. I love the conversation. I love how you let me go into so many tangents. Thank you so much.
That's all we ever want.